after I've done some or all of my cutting, doesn't matter. Sometimes I like to cut a little and then get going and then cut more later. I go ahead and lay out blocks ready to sew. So I pick a center and a border, and I lay those all out on one of these styrofoam boards. I figured out the best way to keep the this is actually batting on the board is I used some fabric glue. I think it was Eileen's or something like that. And I put a bead all around the edges, and then I put some beads through the center, and it is sticking on beautifully. So these boards are 20 by 30 at the Dollar Tree, Dollar Store, Walmart. They're about $1. And then a little piece of batting on there, a little bit of glue, and they are wonderful, so easily moved. Then to see what a few of them look like, I may lay them out into a block just to get an idea. And this is a little bit paler of a quilt than my normal colors, but I thought the flowers were just so pretty. Then I'm all ready to take these to the sewing machine and start my stitching. Now, this is also a good quote-unquote leaders and enders project. I think Bonnie Hunter kind of coined the term, where you can be sewing on something else, and then when you come to a stop, you can sew a little bit on one of these blocks. So it works well for that, as well as making a full quilt. Okay, I'm all set up to sew my first block. I've got 2 blocks ready to go, laid out next to my machine. And I usually do 2 at a time because it makes it easier and there's no breaks. So I'm going to take my first block. Orientation typically doesn't matter because the blocks get all turned around. I line up my 3.5 inch along the edge. If I feel I need to pin or clip, I will, and if I don't, I won't. Now, I always start with a piece of fabric underneath my presser foot so I don't have any of that machine eating the edge of the new fabrics. And I'm hoping I can keep my hand out of the way here. So let me practice this a little bit. Okay. And I've got a nice 1/4 inch seam. And I do my first 3.5. Now, here's the reason I do 2. I can grab the next one, don't have to break my thread. Get that piece of fabric all lined up. I find these are so small, I don't even need to pin or clip or anything. And then I could just keep going, chain stitching. Then when the second piece is through, I stop, cut the first one, cut off my little starter part, and then go to the other side of the block, put that piece, and stitch. So you can do more than 2 at a time. I would say maybe 4 at a time, depending on how much room you've got around your sewing machine and how you can lay them out. But it's really nice to chain piece. Okay, so let's finish the other side of this one real quick, and then we'll talk about pressing, because pressing is very important to get these nice and flat. You can keep a little iron by your sewing machine if you like. I have one right over here on the side. I've got one right behind me. Now, before I press, I always finger press. And basically, let me get this good in the camera. Just basically take your fingers and press with the seam and the direction you want to go. And you want your seam away from the center. So I'm just going to do a quick finger press. It just makes it really quicker and nicer when you go to your iron. So I'm going to slide my little tiny darling Aliso iron over here, see if I can get it in frame just a little bit. And this is going to be tough. Then what I do is nope, we're out of frame here. Nope, can't get in a frame. I'll just tell you what I'm doing. I'm going to have that little finger press piece. It's already ready to go, so I don't have any trouble with the seam in the back. And I just press that real quick, and then I'm ready to start the next piece. Okay, when you're ready to start putting on the 5.5 inch borders, measure what you've got so far. Okay, I am just a little under 5.5. That's okay. This block is very forgiving. So what I do then is when I go to place this block and pin it, I'm going to do a little bit of like kind of like centering my shortness. And then as I stitch, and I'm going to stitch really careful to start, and I'm going to stop, then I take the top piece of the block and I do a little bit of tugging to try and stretch it out just a little bit more. Part of that sometimes is because your 1/4 inch seam may not be perfect. So a little bit of tension as I am as I am stitching along that 1/4 inch seam. And I know my block will finish at 5.5 on that edge because of the fact that I've already pre-cut, and I may just be, let me show you this real quick. I may just be a tiny bit short on those edges, but that's okay. The block will be fine when I go to sew it together to the next one. So don't worry if you're just a tiny bit short. It's fine, not a problem. Okay, so I'm going to do the other side of this. And you know, sometimes one side will be a little short and one side will be just fine. And you just never know. When fabric stretches a little bit, it makes things a little tougher. And this one's just a little bit short too, but not too bad. And I'm holding down that seam, and let me get that starter out of the way because it's just flipping around like a crazy person. Okay. All right, so little tension on that top piece. And remember, we always sew the larger piece on the bottom because the feed dogs take up a tiny little bit of fabric too. So they used to call it saggy bottom. If your pieces aren't, put the saggy bottom on the bottom. Okay, so let's just take a look at this one. I'm going to finger press really quick. And there is my first block all finished. And when you go to press, once again, press away from the center. And what we're going to do when we lay this block out is we're going to alternate directions, so we're not going to really have to worry about seams, which is really nice. I just finished my second block. It measured perfectly at 5.5 inches on the sides before I put it together. It's just amazing. So look at these two cute little blocks. So fun. So easy. What a great quilt. So it's going to take a bit to get these done. Whenever you do, that's cool. I'm going to keep sewing for a while. These are so fun to make because they're small and you get the block finished really fast. I'll be back. I'm planning to be back in about a week with part 3 of the video with at least half my blocks done and possibly even more. And I did want to show you that I quilted Sherlock's little potato chip quilt. It came out so cute. And if you do hear that squawking, yes, that is Sherlock in the background. She wants some loving, some treat, some sort of attention. These little quilts are so fun to do on my long arm. I think it takes me as long to frame it as it does to quilt it. But little ones can be lots of fun. I will see you again real soon.